What's up, everybody? Thralls Middle here once again. I'm the Croc Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that I was kind of anticipating just because my love for this band goes all the way back to high school. We are going to go over the latest offering from Fu Manchu, Return of Tomorrow. This also comes out on the 14th of June on At the Dojo Records. This band formed in Orange County, California in 1985. This is their 13th or 14th album. I've seen it argued either way in terms of their discography. They're not on the archives because they're not on the archives. I don't know, whatever. I mean, Kai's is on there. I figured Fu Manchu would be on there, but that's a different discussion. It has been 6 years since their last album, 2018's Clone of the Universe, which I absolutely loved. And I've, again, been a fan for a long time since their third album, In Search Of. I saw the album cover, the hot rods, the lady, the drag racing in the desert, and just the font screamed, man, this is going to be fuzzy.
Believe it or not, I've never jammed this band before. I always knew they existed, but I never quite knew what they were. With the name Fu Manchu, I was just like, I don't know. So I never got into them. And then Nick had me listen to one song, Monstro Atomico, and I pretty much knew right there that I had screwed up, and this was yet another band I needed to listen to, so here we are.
Yeah, I figured the nice way to start off in terms of introducing this band would be an 18-minute stoner jam.
Fair enough.
And it worked. And yeah, like if you don't know who this band is, I mean, if you've been even remotely aware of the whole high desert scene in California with bands like Caius, I mean, Queens of the Stone Age, tied in there, Mondo Generator, stuff like that. This has been one of like the focal bands in terms of the whole stoner rock, desert punk, stoner metal. There's a lot of discussion as to whether or not this band is a metal band or just a rock band. The same kind of thing can be said about Caius too. Either way, I wanted to go over them because this band is just flat out consistent. They deliver flat out stoner rock. Riffs, fuzz, great organic production, everything grooves, everything is stoned as hell. And yeah, I mean, not much has changed over the years, and honestly, I'm kind of cool with it. It's like Matthew McConaughey and Days Confused, man, except, less creepy.
My experience with stoner music over the years has been, the early stuff, Spirit Caravan, Mystic Crew, The Clear Light, of course, Sabbath, COC's Deliverance, stuff like that. Definitely all the New Orleans sludge. Down 2 was super stony. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much my experience. So getting into this and pretty much from the first note plucked, I mean, we're in Fuzz Town. Fuzzy bass, fuzzy guitars, and that's really all I needed to know at that point.
Scott Hill, the longtime frontman, guitarist, primary songwriter of the band, has had pretty much his Econoline van with the Wizard spray painted on the side in the same gear for years. And here lately, though, I will say that he's kind of returned to like the band's roots when they were just kind of overdriving everything. Well, if you took the distortion off of their riffs, it might come across as a little bit more blues rock, like a little bit closer to Clutch, but they don't. They fuzz the hell out of everything, and the resulting effect is heavy, droning, very Sabbathy riffs. And they kind of hark a balance between like just straight up more like groove-laden, kind of slower, moodier jams to more like up-tempo rockers. The first two tracks in here, Dehumanize and the strangely titled Loch Ness Wrecking Machine. I don't know if the plan was to get violently high, build a submarine, and try to challenge the Loch Ness Monster to a fight, but I'm kind of all for it.
Right, if that's the case, I'm in. You got me. Let's go.
Televise that, bet on it. I'm with Scott Hill on this one. I think he can do it.
I do too. I believe in these guys.
And I wholeheartedly believe that they will be higher than hell when they do it. But these first two tracks are more like just kind of like straightforward riffy rockers. They're a little bit more up-tempo. You get good droning, kind of heavy riffs, and fun broken down verse riffs. And generally that kind of works with the syncopation of this band, which heavily relies on Scott Hill's very unique vocals. It's almost spoken word, but there's like enough inflection in his voice to where it could be considered kind of singing. He's had this delivery forever. He likes to use like a wide array of effects on his vocals to sound, more reverby or, like different sort of like crackling filters or just, spacey phaser effects. But his delivery is very syncopated, very on the riff, and it almost kind of becomes like part of the riff itself.
And it's like shouted for the most part. I don't want to say yelled because that's not the case, but it's a mixture of like talking loudly and shouting. But it doesn't stay all in that fast register either. It does slow it down. Haze the Hides, the absolutely stony, psychedelic, solar baptized jam, or the super chill What I Need, the fat bass, fat drum beats, and just really kind of like, okay, man, all right, let's calm it down. Let's relax a little bit. Just sit on the fuzzy carpet and enjoy life, man. Okay.
The fuzzy carpet is inside of the Econoline van, and yeah, I'm pretty sure Scott Hill's driving, but he turned the GPS off. Like, nah, man, going straight into the horizon, dude.
We're just gonna go.
It's that vibe. Like, every stoner joke that I could possibly make, I mean, this would be like the soundtrack for it. And I like that they kind of approach it in different facets. Like, a lot of this, very straightforward. Like, find a riff, lock on it, dry hump that thing, and then throw in like kind of a fun, clever bridge. That's pretty much baseline most of these songs. But they do it really well, and they kind of keep it fresh and mixed up for the most part. As I said, there's up-tempo tracks to kind of bring you out of the kind of stony haze that the slower songs kind of drag you into. Time is Pulling You Under is kind of a callback to like desert punk. Like, it kind of sounds like Caius' first album, Wretch, where they kind of didn't fully embrace all the fuzz yet, and they were like, no, we can still play like really fast and, you know, be violently high. Roads of the Lowly kind of mixes it up with like a faster paced, you know, kind of chorus riff to kind of kick it off. And then when it gets down to like the verse riffs, it's again like kind of a broken down syncopated riff, but there's like these cool like fret slides that are kind of like peppered in the song to kind of add a little bit of atmosphere. And that song is notably more heavy. Like, it's just sort of a just meaner sounding song. And if you don't think so, when you get to the breakdown at the end of that, probably the heaviest moment on the entire album, that riff just flat out chugs your face off.
They isolate that riff in Roads of the Lowly and just let it kind of hang out for a minute, and like, you know it's coming and you know it's gonna get heavy, and then it does, and you're like, all right, cool, that paid off. But other times they do it too, like in What I Need has an isolated slow harmony. First time I really heard harmonies come out and play, and it's got a nice slow burn to it, and then it gets all bluesy, but like it's got a gradual build to it, and it's because of that isolation, I think, that really drives it home.
I generally prefer this band when they write slower, more kind of like drawn out, stony jams. Like, that's kind of my favorite gear. And I mean, this guitar tone was built to drone. Like, all the giant single chords they hit, like tons of sustain on them, plus you have that warm, fuzzy bass behind it. One chord can kind of create an atmosphere and a mood, and I absolutely love that. Like, I want stoner metal that reminds you of that time you got way too high and ended up staring at a lava lamp for like 3 hours until your friends tapped you on the side of your head like, hey, dude, you all right?
I've been there, for sure.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. That is kind of the vibe I want, and Solar Baptized and What I Need being the two longest tracks in here, and how they kind of take you on that weird journey that is only in your head, because this entire time you've been staring at a lava lamp and making your friends wonder if they should call someone. It's okay. I mean, if you got good friends, they've just been like throwing Funyuns at you for like the last 10 minutes.
Funyuns and cheese balls, yep. Yep. And I know we mentioned a song with a breakdown earlier. There are some other definite heavy moments on here. Haze the Hides has a wonderfully sludgy descending riff in it. I get reminded straight of Down 2. Yeah. Their type of vibe. Most songs, even, there are moments where there just are downright heavy riffs, but they just love to chill, and I love it when they chill. The last track, High Tide. Oh my goodness, dirty blues. I was waiting for Stevie Ray Vaughan to come out and shred over this. Just that bass is so nasty, goosebumps. That clean melody that goes over it. It's like a 3-minute instrumental. It needed to be longer. It needed to be a lot longer. I guarantee they had good old Grape Ape on hand for this one.
Dude, that bass line could get someone pregnant. Like, it is absolutely sexy. In fact, I wrote Fu Manchu sexy, because that is the whole vibe of that song. Like, it is just, you know, smooth and just sort of silky sounding, like, and it's just buttery. Like, it flows beautifully. There's cool spacey guitars to it. And it is easily the most chill song on the album, but there's moments like that kind of peppered amongst all the giant Sabbathy riffs. And I like it when they kind of like take the foot off the gas, or rather in this case, off the fuzz pedal, just for a moment to kind of let things breathe. Lifetime Waiting, That song, you notice like the guitar tone isn't quite as heavy on there, and that was probably the song on there that reminded me the most of Clutch's Self-Titled. Clutch's Self-Titled doesn't have the heaviest guitar tone, but it is stony as hell. This song is just kind of got this like kind of weird kind of Clutch groove to it. The vocals kind of come out a little bit more, and it's Scott Hill's stony story time. Like he's just telling you about, I don't know, stuff he saw on a trip down to the Baja. Probably got abducted by aliens, or at least he thinks he got abducted by aliens. I don't know. The whole song just kind of screams, "Don't harsh my mellow, man."
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. And What I Need really locks on that vibe. That song was surprisingly melodic. Like, there's a lot of cool guitar harmonies and just interesting interplay. There's some just excellent bluesy leads, but there's also, like, cool melodies being played underneath it. It's not just, like, a stock, like, riff behind the lead. It's just waves of atmosphere, and it kind of creates the whole, like, vibe of, like, staring up into the Milky Way in the middle of the high desert. That's probably maybe what they did. I don't know. I don't know what inspires them, other than like weed. I also like the way this album is paced too, because you have sections that kind of capture certain moods. Like, starts off more up-tempo, you kind of settle into more of the mid-tempo grooves later, and then you kind of get this like interesting like kind of mixed bag in the middle. Destroying Light being kind of like an interesting one that pops out to me. It starts off with like a really cool drum groove, gets in this big old Sabbathy riff, and then you get like this kind of staticky phaser sort of broken down riff, and then Scott comes in with a vocal filter that sounds like a PA at an old Kmart, and it kind of works because as soon as that verse ends, it goes into this big old raucous heavy chorus. So it's almost like a jam session between Black Sabbath and the Cars, and I dig that. Plus, he's covered the Cars before, so I know he at least likes that band. You get the more cosmic, spacey jams later on Solar Baptized and What I Need, but there's this fun little groovy section that happens before the last track. The title track and Liquefy, those songs just bring like the booty-shaking rock grooves.
Yeah, one of my favorite drum beats actually is in the song Liquefy. That is just this kind of off-time, really bouncy, catchy groove, and that bass, man, I tell you what, the bass and the drums play so well together, it's not even funny, but it's just all right.
And surprisingly, for as meat and potatoes as this is, they know how to keep it interesting. Like, they kind of inject like some just fun dynamics that, are definitely rooted in a lot of classic stuff that is maybe a little bit off the stoner metal spectrum, but it adds like an additional spice to it. And these songs are straightforward for the most part. They are about, again, like finding a good riff, sticking with it, and just kind of having fun with it. And I still get the impression that 13 or 14 albums later, this band is still having fun writing music, because all these feel like just flat out jam sessions.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like they're having a good time. I can see them smiling at each other, especially when that warm bass comes in with the drums and they're again all grooving, and I can just see them like, hey.
And it's the jazz cabbage.
Yep.
And the production here, I think, is fantastic. Like, it just kind of captures the sound of a band. Like, that doesn't sound like processed at all. It sounds like you're in the studio with them, and they're just kind of jamming through that haze of smoke that is definitely not from cigarettes. And another thing that I love about this band in general, like kind of across their discography, and now including this one, is there's a vibe about their songs where I feel like they play it in the car and they can't drive to it if it doesn't make them want to kind of take a road trip or just, slightly break the speed limit. It doesn't make the album. It doesn't make the album. Like, every song kind of feels like it's just good driving music, and I'm always a sucker for that.
As far as any negatives are concerned, I don't really have many. One would be is if you don't know what song you're listening to, they'll tell you. They repeat every title at great length, but I guess that's not really a knock per se, especially if this is what this band does, and it sounds like that's what this band does.
That is definitely what this band does.
Another slight knock, I guess, would be is that a majority of the songs are pretty short, except for like two of them. Solar Baptized and What I Need are both 5 minutes and some change, and duly so as they jam. A lot of these songs, though, are fairly short, 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe 3.5 minutes, something like that. But like, I know these guys are capable of jamming because they've done it, and not that I need a elongated jam on every song, but like, There were just a couple more times where I could see where they could have drawn something out a little bit more. I mean, they definitely have riffs to play with that they could have dry humped into the sunset. High Tide is only 2.5 minutes long, and that song needs to be like 15 minutes long, and I could sit in that groove forever and just, Grape Ape. Those are my only real grapes.
I mean, I'm with you on the shorter songs. Like, I like it when this band kind of just, does the stoner jam session thing. Like, that's kind of one of my favorite things about stoner rock and stoner metal is like, no, we can just kind of ride this groove out and keep building on it, kind of dip out, isolate the bass and drums for a bit. I love that sort of aesthetic. Like, just give me a long but spirited jam session. And their short rockers are good, but they don't pack the same punch, that kind of just, giant atmospheric desert rock sort of vibe that I'm pretty much looking for all the time with this band. And for me personally, since I've been listening to this band since high school, I would say, if you're looking for anything different in Fu Manchu over these years, this is Fu Manchu. Like, it has not changed one bit. Maybe some things shouldn't change. I don't think I would want them to sound any different. They've been great at sounding this way for years. It's not like, Disturbed, where I would beg them to change. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, they kind of helped pioneer this sound. So, I kind of give them a little bit of slack there, because why change when you kind of broke the ground there?
Right.
So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. This could grow to a 4. I think this is another solid album. And honestly, I think their last 3 have been just absolutely killer. Like, kind of a return to, like, the Fu Manchu that I got really familiar with back in high school, when I was definitely partaking in the atmospheric elements of their sound, so to speak. That was so coded, no one will ever figure out what I'm talking about.
Nope. Bible study.
Yeah, Bible study. That's exactly it. Because you can use the pages and roll them. I mean, you can read it. That's what I meant. You could read the Bible.
Read it, of course. Read it.
There's words in it. But anyway, this album just delivers, what I want from Fu Manchu. Big, stony riffs. Their guitar tone is always on point. I love those big, droning, warm, but kind of crackling riffs. Mm-hmm. The bass lines are amazing. The songs just groove. Like, you just get locked in them. You kind of know where they're going, but you don't care, even if you've been there before. It's just, kind of like home for stoner metal. Mm-hmm. If you've been a longtime fan of this band, you will continue to be a longtime fan of this band with this album. Like, nothing has changed, and nor would I want it to in this band's case, because these guys are kind of still one of my favorites in the entire high desert scene, or whatever you want to call it. This is an awesome album if you're a big fan of Caius and Mondo Generator. Or here's a fun one. If you're a fan of anything that came out on Meteor City Records back in the 90s, you'll love this too, because that whole label was spawned because they loved desert rock and they wanted to just imitate Caius on every single thing they released. Bottom line, check this out. If you're a stoner rock fan, you're going to dig it.
Well, once again, here we are in first exposure land to a band. I've realized again yet that I'm stupid and should have probably jammed this long ago, but here we are.
Not going to argue.
I'm going to go ahead and give this a 4. I really dug it. A majority of these songs are absolute bangers, and not in the sense of like they're super heavy, but they're jammy, they're groovy, they're riffy. All these riffs are catchy. They know how to write a hook and they stick with it. I mean, who doesn't love when a stoner band gets really jammy and the bass and the drums come out to play and you get some booty shaking time, and like, I don't know, it's just, they've got a whole vibe here presented. And I know I'm not saying anything that fans of this band already don't know, but I really dug it. I had a lot of fun listening to it. There were tons of things I really didn't expect, especially based on hearing the first couple songs, because Loch Ness Wrecking Machine is just kind of weird. And I didn't really expect, as this album opened up, how much it would really open up to, and how much time I spent in a psychedelic haze, really enjoying myself. As a stoner myself, I can get on board with this band and truly enjoy what they do. This definitely took me places, and most of it was out into the desert, staring up into the sky in the back of a van with a fuzzy carpet, but I was there nonetheless.
Scott Hill could narrate a trip to the grocery store on one of these songs, and he would probably still make it interesting. It's just what he does.
Yeah, if you're into definitely Caius, Sabbath, Clutch. If Cave-In was a surf rock band, I think maybe that could work minorly. There were some Beck moments, some Rage Against the Machine, obviously without Zach De La Rocha's harsher vocals. Like, it's just got that kind of vibe, and it's dirty and it's sludgy and it's jammy, and I really enjoyed it. So check it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon, if you'd like to help us out there. There's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel, up in the bottom right-hand corner of our banner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts, both old and new. The old ones are discounted, provided we have your size, and we also have hats, too, so if you're looking for any of that stuff, click the link down below.
And here we are at the awkward thank you portion of the video where we thank you over and over again. We thank you, we appreciate our fans, we love you guys. It's such an amazing thing to be a part of Thralls of Metal, and it's because of you guys. You make that happen for us. We've got album reviews coming, we've got discography rankings, we're going to do Meshuggah next. We'll get to it, I promise. Getting 5 guys together who have lives is often somewhat difficult, but we'll get there.
Curse them.
Damn you and your families! No, I love all of you. I love you guys. You already know. Anyway, discography rankings, is it metal, is it not metal? Tons of content coming, and once again, we do it for you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule, and again, tons coming in the future. So one more big thank you, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.